something deeply unsettling about children staring at you in silence. Not angry, not crying, not even moving, just watching. And for decades, people across the world have claimed to encounter strange children with completely black eyes standing outside their homes, appearing on empty roads, or knocking at doors late at night. They are known as the black-eyed children or the black-eyed kids. And unlike many horror legends, what makes these stories terrifying isn't violence. It's how human they almost seem. Almost. Today, while I create this artwork, we're diving into the history behind the black-eyed children, the most disturbing encounters people claim to have experienced, and the psychological reason these figures trigger such intense fear through something known as the uncanny.
The Uncanny Valley. The origin of the legend. So the modern black-eyed children legend first became widely known in the late 1990s. A journalist named Brian Bethel shared a story online describing a strange encounter he had while sitting in his car outside a movie theater in Texas. Two young boys approached his vehicle. First they looked normal, but something immediately felt wrong. Their speech sounded rehearsed and emotionless, almost like they were copying human conversation instead of naturally speaking. The boys asked him for a ride home so they could get money for movie tickets. Simple enough, right? But Brian described feeling overwhelming fear for no obvious reason. And then he noticed their eyes. Completely black. No whites. No pupils. Just endless darkness. He drove away in panic before they could get inside the car. After he posted the story online, people from all over began sharing eerily similar experiences. Children standing outside windows. Children asking to come inside. Children appearing on isolated roads late at night. Always polite, always calm, and always with black, empty eyes. The most disturbing part of these stories. It is reported, the strangest details repeated in many encounters, such as, the children often ask for permission to enter. Let us in. We need to use your phone. We just want to come inside. And the witnesses described feeling intense pressure to obey them, even while every instinct screams not to. This detail connects the legend to ancient folklore, such as the common idea of them being vampires. So the vampire mythology is, they cannot enter a home unless invited. Many paranormal researchers believe this invitation rule symbolizes consent. The idea that evil must be willingly accepted before it can cross into someone's life. Whether supernatural or psychological, it adds another layer of terror, because it turns out to be a simple choice into a life or death decision. The encounters that made people believe. One of the most famous encounter stories involves a woman who claimed she heard knocking at her front door late at night during a storm. When she opened the door slightly, she saw two children standing outside in the rain. At first she felt sympathy, but something felt deeply unnatural. The children kept their heads lowered and spoke in a flat, emotionless voice. They asked to come inside and use the phone. Then one of them slowly looked up. Black eyes. Completely black. The women slammed the door shut and later described feeling physically sick and unable to sleep for days afterwards. And another story tells of a man driving alone on an empty road, who saw a child standing near the forest line. When he stopped to help, the child approached the car silently. As the child got closer, the man noticed there were no reflections in the eyes, only darkness. He sped away before the child reached the vehicle. What's fascinating is that many witnesses describe the same emotional reaction. Not normal fear, not panic, but a primal dread. Like their brain was warning them that something pretending to be human was standing in front of them. The Uncanny Valley. The very reason they are so terrifying. This brings us to one of the most interesting psychological explanations behind the black-eyed children phenomenon. It is known as the psychological effect, where something appears almost human, but not completely. And instead of comfort, it creates revulsion and fear. This happens because the human brain is extremely good at recognizing faces in human behavior. When something is slightly off, movements, expressions, speech patterns, eye contact, emotional responses, our instincts immediately react. It's the same reason realistic dolls, mannequins, or certain CGI characters can feel disturbing. They resemble humans, but something about them feels empty. Black-eyed children perfectly trigger this effect. They look like children, but their speech sounds artificial, their behavior feels emotionless, their expressions lack warmth, and their eyes remove one of the most important human features of all. The eyes are where humans search for emotion, trust, and identity. Removing them creates psychological horror at a deeply instinctive level. Your brain sees a child, but your instincts see a predator. Why the stories feel so real? One reason this legend spreads so quickly online is because the stories feel believable. There is usually no dramatic monster attack, no gore, no supernatural battle, just a strange interaction. A knock at the door, a child standing alone at night, a feeling that something is wrong. That realism makes the stories linger in people's minds far longer than traditional horror creatures. The fear comes from the possibility, since technically, nothing impossible happened until you see the eyes. A dark theory of the black-eyed children, BC. Some people believe they are demons, others think they are ghosts or extraterrestrials, even interdimensional beings. But one of the creepiest theories is that they are not creatures at all. They are manifestations of human fear itself. Entities that imitate children because humans are naturally programmed to trust them, but the imitation is flawed. That is why they seem emotionally hollow. Like something wearing humanity instead of understanding it. Maybe the reason they ask for permission. It is because they cannot fully enter our world unless invited. So why am I interested in these encounters? Well, simply because I like the unknown factor of it. I am deeply interested in what we can't fully explain or what seems unreal but real all at the same time. As for my choice of art, well, I simply like to draw innocent beings such as the children in creepy ways. It is the unsettling and scary part that makes me feel alive when doing my art. The fact that something this normal, or what is supposed to be pure, be evil. And I keep asking myself, when will I encounter them? Will they seem normal at first, or will I detect their uncanny valley essence first? But ultimately I have an opinion on what they might be and what can work and why it works. But I am here to mention the stories of some encounters that I find very interesting. Popping in to just mention, I wanted to incorporate the ghost, the demonic and alien vibe in the eyes of this piece. I did, however, just make them black in the end. But please comment down below which version you like the most. The deep dive. Common encounter narratives and variations. Witness accounts of black-eyed children, also called the BEKs, share many distinctive elements. Usually, the BEKs are described as seemingly normal boys or girls, often age 8 to 16, who abruptly appear at night. They wear plain or anachronistic clothing, for example dated sports logos, and have pale complexions. They speak in a flat, eerie monotone voice that seems too mature or soulless for a child. A key trigger is the moment their eyes are revealed. The witness notices their irises are entirely black, no white or color, which floods the witness with terror. This revelation often occurs after a brief innocuous conversation, like offering rides, asking to use a phone or bathroom. As one researcher notes, BEKs plead at first, asking to make a phone call or use the bathroom or catch a ride, but eventually become more aggressive. A universal theme is invitation. BEKs will not enter uninvited. They may knock or linger at a threshold and repeatedly say variations of, "You have to let us in." In Bethel's original story, when he began closing the car window, a boy shouted, "We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in." If the witness refuses, BEKs disappear, sometimes abruptly, and the encounter ends with an intense sense of dread. Supposedly, permitting them entry leads to dire consequences such as pet deaths, illness, and accidents, according to lore, reinforcing their portrayal as malevolent beings. In a few accounts, BEKs are accompanied by or transform into paranormal phenomena. Some stories link them to tall men in black figures or aliens who appear after the children depart. Narratives vary in setting and detail. Most happen at night, often in quiet suburban or rural areas. but daytime encounters have been claimed in the UK's Cannock Chase area. BEKs are usually in small groups, mainly pairs or trios, though single children appear in some tellings. In unusual accounts, witnesses describe inhuman traits like talon-like feet, extraordinarily cold or hollow voices, or outlines fading like shadows. One lore example has a car battery inexplicably draining or technology failing in sync with the children's pleas. However, all these variations share the core motif: black, pupilless eyes inspiring unexplainable terror. To me, that is so creepy, just to think you can be alone on a road and suddenly have a car meltdown, and just as you get ready to fix it, then be met by a random child asking for a ride. I would freak out so much, if not going into full-blown manic mode. But let's continue to the modern cases and media coverage. Though BEKs began as folk anecdotes, the legend has received mainstream media attention and various case reports, especially since the 2010s. In the US, the Abilene Reporter News, Bethel's own paper, ran a column 2013, and interviews such as Destination America about his 1996 incident. A 2012 Kickstarter-funded film, Black-Eyed Kids, and a 2013 TV segment, Monsters and Mysteries in America, dramatized Bethel's story. The PBS documentary series Monstrum 2013 featured an episode titled, Don't Let Them In, describing BEKs as a modern construction of classic child villain tropes. Folklorist Jason Offutt, Northwest Missouri State, has interviewed alleged BEK witnesses worldwide, noting that their eyes are like a rat's eyes. No pupil, no white, no iris, just totally black. Bloggers and paranormal websites frequently publish collected BEK encounters. For instance, the horror site The Lineup, 2017, lists dozens of alleged BEK testimonies. Online forums, Reddits r/paranormal, ghost theory, 14 groups, etc., abound with anonymous BEK anecdotes, though these lack verifiable detail. Internationally, sensational coverage peaked in 2014. In late September 2014, the Birmingham Mail, UK, ran stories on BEKs linked to Staffordshire's Cannock Chase area. Paranormal investigator Lee Brickley described a witness who heard a screaming child only to find a black-eyed girl before her. Brickley claimed BEK sightings dating back to the 1980s in Cannock. That week, the British Daily Star ran 3 front-page stories. One on black-eyed child ghost terror, another on a haunted pub where such a child purportedly appeared, and a third on a supposed global plague of sightings. A Guardian media blog lampooned these headlines as sensational tabloid fare. These UK stories often cited Brickley and anonymous witnesses. They lacked hard evidence but went viral online. Meanwhile, on social media, the BEK legend has thrived. Thousands of mentions on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube narrate alleged encounters, some dramatized, others self-reported. Creative and amateur media have exploited the phenomenon. For example, the YouTube series The Haunting of Sunshine Girl, 2012, produced a film, Sunshine Girl and the Hunt for Black-Eyed Kids. A podcast titled So Supernatural, and other horror podcasts cover BEK lore in multiple episodes. Despite all this coverage, no law enforcement agencies or credible journalists report having obtained police files or verified BEK incidents. In fact, skeptic analyses repeatedly note that all cases appear in unverifiable online forums or tabloids, not in official records. I just want to pop in to say sorry if the order of my drawing process. I just have a mind that does not work in the norm. So I kinda do things backwards and then I will jump to random things. And just go back to the start and refine random details. Also, I have to manage the drawings in sections due to being a stay-at-home mom of 2 boys. With that being said, I have them at home 3 days out of a week, so I only get 2 days to work on my art and do chores around the house. I then only get the weekend to edit and do all the rest, so it's going to take me a while to do consistent video uploads. I just wanted to mention that if anyone finds my process odd and wonder why I do it the way I do. I know of the clipping part for the coloring bits. I just find it therapeutic to do the manual coloring in process and erasing it. It's a lot to do with the OCD and perfectionism part of me, and I like to do things the long and difficult way. Now back to the content. Folkloric, psychological, and paranormal interpretations. folklore experts view BEKs as a modern iteration of ancient motifs. Like changeling or vampiric child legends, BEKs play on the vulnerability at the threshold of home or self. Scholar Bridget Burke, Montclair State, observes BEKs echo the evil spawn child archetype from horror fiction. The fact that BEKs must be invited inside draws a direct parallel to vampire lore, as researchers note. Some analysts see BEKs as personifications of death or misfortune visiting households. An Atlas Obscura feature highlights that BEKs exploit our trust in children as inherently innocent. One's defenses are lowered by our instinct to help kids, symbolically inviting death and destruction by letting them in. Burke notes, in myth, children are supposed to represent a new beginning. That's not what these are. BEKs subvert that innocence. Traditional scholars also link BEKs to the water baby legends of Native Americans or the Strigoi/Moroi myths of Eastern Europe, spirits of lost or unbaptized children luring the living, much like BEKs arise at thresholds. In summary, folklorists see BEKs not as isolated ghosts but as cultural symbols reflecting adult anxieties, fears of corrupted innocence, societal failures to protect children, and the thin barrier between life and death. Psychologically, experts suggest BEK stories thrive on innate adult unease about children who appear simultaneously childlike and not. Children are meant to inspire care, so when they behave in an uncanny, emotionless way, it unnerves us. This inversion, children as predators, taps deep, 3 evolutionary fears. Some psychologists call this a variant of ephobophobia, fear of youth, or simple moral panic. The elemental phrase, "let us in," targets basic social norms of hospitality and trust. Hearing it from a creepy child triggers fight or flight instincts. Cognitive science would note that such stories exploit our pattern seeking. A vague memory of seeing a child might later be remembered as full black eyes under anxious rumination. Dramatic retellings on social media and in media reinforce the fear loop. From a paranormal standpoint, believers propose BEKs as literal supernatural entities, demons, revenants, or extraterrestrials. Some occult interpretations call them restless child spirits or fallen angels, especially given the insistence on invitation, consistent with evil spirit lore. Others link BEKs to satanic motifs, children serving malevolent masters, or suggest an alien abduction scenario. The cryptid pigman of Cannock Chase was sometimes tied in. But academic paranormal studies find no more concrete support for BEKs than for other meme monsters. They appear to reflect cultural storytelling more than actual extraterrestrial or spectral biology. As Monstrum's host Dr. Emily Zarka summarizes, BEKs are a modern construction, shaped by enduring social expectations of childhood, as much as any supernatural impulse. Cultural impact, books, films, podcasts, etc. The BEK legend has permeated modern popular culture, mostly in the horror and paranormal genres. Books. David Weatherly published The Black-Eyed Children, 2013, revised 2nd edition 2020, a non-fiction collection of alleged cases. Several horror novels, e.g. the Black-Eyed Children series by Sarah Clancy, fictionalize BEKs. Films. A short film, Sunshine Girl and the Hunt for Black-Eyed Kids, 2012, depicts a teen investigating the myth. A feature, Black-Eyed Kids, 2013 Kickstarter-funded, dramatizes Bethel's experience. The 2021 horror film, Let Us In, later retitled Black-Eyed Kids, portrays an American family encountering BEKs in a rural town. Television and streaming. Aside from the PBS Monstrum episode, BEKs have been featured on paranormal TV shows like Monsters and Mysteries in America, 2012, and Ghost Adventures episodes. Podcasts. Many paranormal podcasts include BEK episodes, such as the So Supernatural No. 78, Haunted Places podcast, and Those Conspiracy Guys have discussions. Online media. YouTube channels and TikTok creators frequently post BEK, true story animations. Even Reddit's r/NoSleep fiction forum has multiple BEK threads. Globally, BEKs appear in multiple languages. For example, a Bangladesh news magazine published a 2020 feature on BEKs, illustrating how the legend has traveled, though much content was copied from 527.8 Western sources. In the cultural sphere, BEKs often accompany discussions of other boogeymen, e.g. the plague of black-eyed child ghosts, tabloid story, or YouTube true crime series claiming police reports of BEKs unfounded. In summary, black-eyed children have become a staple of 21st-century digital folklore and horror media. They regularly feature in Halloween stories, viral social posts, and kitschy internet lore compilations. Their cultural impact is thus in how they reflect and exploit our fears, but also in how they demonstrate the speed and power of internet-based urban legend creation. As Atlas Obscura's 2024 article concludes, the BEK myth has spread like ghostly wildfire online, even as hard evidence remains elusive. Which artwork stands out to you? How did I do with the perspective angle drawing in the last piece?